A narration tells us about an ancient myth. The child of the day and the child of the night have always hated each other, and this rivalry has been passed down through the ages. Now, we see a fight raging on between a Joker monster named Ralph and the cops. The evil clown talks about the false dream of ascending to heaven, and then he introduces the cops to the Ralph show as he levitates upon a giant ball. Suddenly, he attacks the cops with his death ball move and they try to evade him, but it's of no use as Ralph smashes down upon them and causes a mess of things. The evil clown celebrates his victory as an A-rank summoner of chaos. One of the cops tries his best to stop Ralph by pointing his gun at him, but the evil clown is barely amused. Ralph summons a giant electrical charge and launches his lethal pin shot at the cop, after lamenting that he doesn't know his place. He grins as his target is decimated with a huge kaboom. Now, we see Ralph's army of goons robbing a bank with ease, and they make plans to move on to their next location. Suddenly, a school bus races to the scene and immediately stops right next to Ralph. It turns out to be the crew's getaway car, as they've decided it's time to go back to their base with their loot. The goons try to run away, but Ralph firmly plants his foot in front of them. He grabs some of the cash from their bags and happily takes in the smell of fresh dough. He states that he is going to build a Ralph land, filled with chaos and terror while the crew rushes to the bus. It takes time for the masked driver to open the sliding door, and he tells his men that the door was stuck, which is why he took so long. The driver notices a cute blonde girl, so he asks about her, and learns that she is a hostage because she is the governor's wife. The goons also point out to a little girl and state that she is the governor's daughter, so she's as good as a princess to them. An emotional scene follows as the mother pleads the goons to let go of her daughter as she is only a child. However, the goons don't listen and smack the mother, after which they separate both of them. We learn that the child's name is Jessica as her mother calls out to her, but the goons tell Jessica to shut up, otherwise they are going to spank her. The harassment continues, but then the bus driver tells the goons to stop acting mean and let Jessica go. The goon leader doesn't seem to care at first, but then the driver angrily grabs his face and repeats himself with an ominous energy and scary face. A bald goon gets angry with his behavior, so he challenges the driver, who turns around and gives him a stare. Now, we learn that there are two types of people with special abilities. Those that like to use their powers for crime and evil are considered to be the descendants of the children of the night, just like Ralph. These people are termed as villains, and then we see Ralph, who also decides to enter the bus now that he's done terrorizing the innocent people. However, as soon as he puts his hand on the door, a loud crash is heard and the bald goon is sent flying through the bus window. As Ralph turns his head with a look of confusion, the narration tells us that there are also people who fight against the villains. We witness the bus driver mercilessly thrashing through the goon army in the bus, and he strikes a pose while Ralph asks who he is. The driver takes off his mask and declares that he's here to take out the trash. As expected, he belongs to those who are the descendants of the children of the day. These people are called Psykers, and we finally learn that the driver's name is Cassian Lee as he plants a huge grin on his face. Cassian and Ralph seem to know each other from before, but the evil clown doesn't look happy to see his nemesis in front of him. Cassian takes out his wireless earbud and immediately lights it on fire, while Ralph pleads with him not to do anything foolish. However, Cassian is just happy to be alone with Ralph now, so he decides to get the show on the road. Ralph starts to piss his pants as Cassian unleashes an epic fireball, while also stating that the evil clown and his goons are all useless, so he's not going to spare any of them. Cassian gets ready to burn all the scum to ashes, and he seems to take great pleasure in this. Now, we're taken to a rather peaceful setting in the city the next day. However, we learn from the news that Cassian is being reprimanded for being a bit too excessive with Ralph and his bank robbers. It turns out that the human rights activists have sent an official request to Lampus, which is an international organization of psykers. The request is to punish Cassian for being too violent, but we also learn that he is the top-class psyker. In the Lampus, Washington office, we see a cute redhead named Tuppence Schiller, who is the director of Lampus. She sips on her drink and asks Cassian if he's a villain, which makes him pretty upset. Our hero crushes his glass and asks her how she could even compare him to such filth. However, Tuppence scolds Ralph for being reckless because not only did his actions allow Ralph to get away, they have also angered the public who want answers for his use of excessive force. Cassian tries to counter by saying the hostages were harmed, but Tuppence tells him that he needs to be more careful because he is a psyker. She says that Cassian should think and act rationally, otherwise his actions are no different from any other villain out there. Cassian feels a little guilty, and then Tuppence suspends him for the time being. Cassian is let off with a warning, but he complains that Tuppence is a cold witch with no sense of empathy. He is also puzzled as to how she is best friends with his idol Jeff. Suddenly, Cassian's phone rings, and he notices that it's Jeff who's calling him. He asks what's up, and looks shocked when he learns that he has to go to Rhodes International Airport in Greece. He does as he's told, and then we're treated to a nice, scenic view of the place. Cassian sips on some tea and thinks about the last time he met Jeff, which was roughly around 6 months ago. A flashback takes us to the HC orphanage, back when Cassian was still a little boy. He is getting fascinated by some dinosaur toys that are being controlled by Jeff's psychic powers. Cassian is amazed by Jeff's skills and tells him that he should become a psyker and beat up villains so that his face can show up on TV. However, Jeff says that he doesn't know if he's good enough for the task. Back to the present. Cassian comments that this was during a time when he didn't have to worry about much, and he misses those days as he takes another sip of his tea. Time passes by, but Jeff still hasn't shown up, so Cassian tries calling him. It's of no use, so Cassian suspects that something might have happened to Jeff. Suddenly, he hears a faint voice calling out his name and turns around to see Jeff, who is badly bruised and battered. Jeff falls into Cassian's arms, and he demands to know who did this to him. Jeff laments that he shouldn't have called Cassian here, and goes on to give him a mysterious necklace. Cassian wants to take Jeff to a hospital so that he can get treated, but Jeff coughs out some blood, much to his shock and surprise. Jeff tells Cassian that there's no time to waste, and he should get out of here as soon as possible because he is in great danger. Despite this, Cassian insists on calling an ambulance and brings out his phone. However, a mysterious figure makes his appearance, and Cassian demands to know who he is. Jeff quickly realizes his fate and pushes Cassian away to sacrifice himself. The mysterious figure brutally slashes through Jeff and kills him right in front of Cassian's eyes. This devastates our hero, and he calls out to Jeff, who has now fallen dead on the ground. He is teary-eyed as he looks upon his idol's body, and then the assassin makes a quick escape. Cassian is fuming with rage, so he decides to go after the murderer and follows him to the edge of a cliff after a hectic chase scene. Cassian takes a moment to get his breath back and confronts the assassin for killing Jeff. He wants to know if this was an act of vengeance or if someone had paid him to do this. Regardless, our hero decides he's going to fry this assassin to bits and ashes, even if it's the last thing he ever does. Our hero prepares to unleash his flames, but then the assassin drops his disguise and reveals himself to be Jack Khalid, who is an S-rank psyker. Cassian is confused and demands to know why Jack killed Jeff, but the blue-haired samurai says that he was simply getting rid of a traitor. Cassian doesn't understand what's going on, but then a voice from behind tells him that this is true. She turns out to be Lyra, who is also an S-rank psyker with ice powers. Lyra explains that Jeff had killed one of them, and even the Lampus leaders were in on this operation. Suddenly, Jack turns the tables on Cassian and accuses him of treason as well because he was seen talking to Jeff. Jack demands to know what it was that Jeff told Cassian during his dying moments, but our hero isn't going to give in so easily. He says that Jeff is incapable of assassinating a psyker because he had never killed anyone during his 10 years of service. Lyra senses that Cassian is going to do something rash, so she pleads with him to stay calm because there are 2 other top-class psykers here with them. Jack tells our hero that he should act like a psyker and do as he's told to, but this brings a smile to his face. Cassian agrees that he should be rational and calm, so he is going to kill both Jack and Lyra for taking away his idol. Cassian dashes towards Jack, so the blue-haired samurai decides it's time to get busy. Both psykers get into a deadly battle and bring out their best moves upon each other. Jack decides to bring out his shadow sword technique, and Lyra also joins in with her cold blast move. Cassian doesn't seem bothered by them and challenges his peers even further. Both psykers unleash their overpowered moves and Cassian counters them with his fire blast attack. He comes out on top and goes for his flare dash, but is suddenly shot in the gut by a sniper psyker. Realizing he's been played and is outnumbered, Cassian drops to the ground and holds onto his wound. He is told to surrender, otherwise the psykers will aim for his head next. However, these words land on deaf ears, and Cassian simply awakens his inner powers to get back up. He summons a Hellfire Blast and unleashes the deadly move, but doesn't direct it at his opponents. Instead, he uses this as a distraction to jump off the cliff and make his escape. However, the sniper lands a shot and strikes Cassian in the chest right before he can get away safely. Our hero cannot believe his luck, as he drops down into the water with a huge splash. He doesn't want to die like this, but he still wants to get revenge for what the psykers did to Jeff. Suddenly, the necklace in his hand starts to glow, and then we're transported to a bathroom where we see a boy drowning inside a toilet. The others are shocked to see this and try to call for help, but then the boy suddenly wakes up and takes his head out of the commode. We notice that he's wearing the same necklace that was in Cassian's hand, and then we realize that this is actually Cassian, but in a different body. He looks at himself in the mirror and cannot believe what has happened to him because he is literally inside a child's body. Our hero washes his face, hoping to wake up from a dream, but quickly realizes that this is his reality now. Suddenly, Cassian is hit by a surge of memories, and he figures that he is in Korea. He doesn't seem to recognize these memories as they belong to a boy named Gangu Guan. Suddenly, our hero hears a mysterious voice, which is relieved to see he is finally awake now. Cassian turns around to check who's there, but doesn't find anyone around him. That's when his necklace awakens, and a mysterious demon named Moros shows himself. Moros is shown to be a little spooky, but states that he is a mighty soul from the ancient times. Cassian is still flipping over the fact that he came out of a necklace. Moros finally reveals to our hero that he got transported to this place because Moros had saved his life. Cassian is able to speak good Korean because he used to actually live here before he was adopted. The fire boy tries to understand how he was revived, and then Moros reminds him that Jeff had given him the necklace in order to protect his life. This makes Cassian a little emotional, and then he tries to figure what Jeff was looking for in the first place. Moros states that it is called Mark, the Sword of Annihilation. He goes on to explain that this sword was made a long time ago, even before the time of the Myth War. Cassian is a little hesitant to listen to what Moros has to say, but the ancient spirit simply tells him to shut up and trust him because he knows it all. Cassian continues to act stubborn, even though Moros had to give up half his power to bring him back to life. Now, our hero is in for some rough news as he checks the internet. He learns that Lampus is spinning a story saying that he was the one who killed Jeff, because he was actually a villain in disguise. Cassian is pissed off to learn this, because he respects Jeff the most and would never hurt him. Cassian's anger starts to get the better of him, so Moros tells him to calm down. This is of no use, as he begins to crackle and transforms into a monstrous warrior with demon hands. Meanwhile, a trio of bullies lie waiting for their fat informant to tell them about Gangu, whom they were actually bullying in the bathroom. The bullies make fun of their informant for being fat, and then ask him what he saw. They are surprised to hear that there was nobody inside the toilet, and panic for a bit, because they were sure that Gangu was dead. However, they are also relieved that Gangu didn't bite the dust and is still breathing. These bullies seem to be harboring evil intentions, as their leader states that he is going to screw Gangu all over again. And that's the end of part 1. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to catch part 2 ASAP. Hit the bell icon for notifications. I'll see you soon.